A rally car slips off the road in wet conditions. At first, this seems like a fairly common incident. Crashes are a normal part of motorsport.
Oh, huge crash there from Solberg. What a monster.
How do you feel?
Okay.
Huh?
Despite how spectacular many of them look, very rarely are motorsport crashes fatal. But this incident was different. It wasn't at a particularly high speed. The car didn't have much visible damage to it, nor did it experience any particularly sudden stop or high G-force. Despite this, the driver would not survive the crash. Something had gone terribly wrong here. 13th of April, 2023, Lobor, Croatia. It was on this rainy day when Hyundai were conducting their pre-event test for the upcoming Rally of Croatia. Craig Breen and co-driver James Fulton were driving at rally speed on a road between Lobor and Stari Golubovec. The mood of the crew was quite optimistic at the time of the Rally of Croatia. This was to be just the third event for James Fulton as Craig Breen's co-driver in the World Rally Championship, and the crew had just scored a podium in the previous Rally of Sweden. Breen would also be doing a part-time season for 2023 and was hoping to score a full-time drive for 2024 after a troublesome season with M-Sport. Breen was quite happy now that he was back in an I-20. Breen was always a strong performer on tarmac rallies, a common surface in Irish rallying. Whilst approaching a tight right-hand bend, Breen was too fast. The rear lost grip, and the car slid sideways off the road into a recently built wooden handrail. The crash was not at a particularly high speed. The car also didn't have any visually significant damage. From the outside, it would have looked like a minor crash, but inside the car, Craig Breen was already dead. The simulator footage you're seeing has a much higher G-force than the real crash, as it's using hard body physics, meaning both the fence and the car are infinitely rigid. In the case of Breen's actual crash, the car went through multiple fence posts before coming to a stop, meaning the impact was not as particularly severe in terms of the G-force. The death of Craig Breen was an event that sent shockwaves through the motorsport community. Craig Breen was a highly talented and loved driver throughout the motorsport community, but this incident has uncovered a safety flaw that needs to be addressed that could affect many closed-cockpit race cars and rally cars. But there has been an absence of discussion with regards to the safety flaw that this fatal crash has uncovered. This is most likely due to the sensitive nature of the subject, but it's something that should be talked about, because it's vitally important that no other rally drivers or racing drivers end up with a similar fate. At the time of the crash, the FIA announced they would launch an investigation into the crash, but since May 2023, there has not been any information made public about this investigation, whether it's concluded, whether it's ongoing, and what the findings are. Nor has there been any discussion of any specific safety changes since May 2023. It's for this reason that this video has been made, to discuss the safety implications of Breen's crash. But to understand what needs to be done, we first need to understand the background and the crash itself. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, there was a question on everyone's mind. How could such a minor-seeming crash result in the death of a driver? Crashes are a part of rallying. Major crashes are a frequent occurrence in all levels of rallying, including the World Rally Championship. But all of these crashes, which have had much higher G-forces and occurred at much higher speeds, often didn't result in any injury, and the ones that did were usually minor injuries. The images from the crash site didn't make any sense. Video footage of a Hyundai i20 in almost pristine condition being loaded onto a transporter, the crash site being at a low-speed corner, and the fact that co-driver James Fulton was also uninjured. But it would be the footage of the car being loaded onto the transporter that would give us the first clue. Other than the door mirror, the driver's side window was the only part of the car that had any visible damage. Loose plastic can be seen hanging from the window roughly where the smaller vent window is. This would be the first piece of the puzzle of what had happened that had turned what should have been a minor impact into a tragedy. A week passed after the fatal crash, and Hyundai team principal Cyril Abiteboul finally revealed what many had speculated to be the case. A log from the fence had penetrated the cockpit of the i20 through the driver's side window. But this raises some major safety concerns for all rally cars and some closed cockpit race cars. Driver protection in closed cockpit cars generally doesn't consider the intrusion of debris into the cockpit the way open wheel racing does. The reality is, closed cockpits are not impenetrable, and a closed cockpit will very quickly become an open cockpit if it's hit in a weak spot. The windows are always going to be a weak point. The drivers may be more vulnerable in closed cockpits than you may think, especially in either production-based cars such as TCR and GT3 cars, or silhouette cars such as Rally 1, supercars, and Class 1 touring cars, as production or silhouette cars have much larger windows to match the road cars. Remove the windows, and you'll see the crews of closed cockpit race cars and rally cars are significantly more exposed to external debris intrusion than drivers of open cockpit race cars, which use high cockpit sides and the halo device to protect the driver from most reasonably sized debris. Luckily, closed cockpit race cars already have a solution to this problem. They use window nets, but window nets aren't without their own problems. The current standards for window nets are aimed at preventing drivers' limbs from being pulled outside the cockpit in an impact, rather than preventing debris intrusion. For example, Motorsport Australia only has a load requirement on the window nets of 500 newtons. That's the equivalent of a 51 kilogram person sitting on the window net. If hit by substantial debris, 500 newtons is not enough. But for rally cars, window nets, even if made much stronger, are not an option. Window nets are not road legal, and in addition to this, rally cars need good side visibility due to how tight and twisty the stages are, as well as the fact the cars are sliding in the corners, which may require drivers to look out the side window in order to see ahead. But we can't keep having rally drivers exposed like this. Something has to be done, and to work out what that is, we only need to look at the event that took place just 1 week later. Whilst all eyes were on Ogier, Rovanpera, Evans, Tanak and Nerville, the Rally 2 cars in that week's Rally Croatia were also battling just as hard. One of these cars was driven by Gus Greensmith. But partway through stage 4, his Skoda Fabia had experienced a small impact somewhere along the stage. The car was almost undamaged, with the exception of the left door mirror and the left window. The window had partly separated from the car. Although it did not fully detach, an impact not large enough to affect the car's performance was enough to detach the window. The detached window on Greensmith's car is the second piece of the puzzle here. What this failure has shown is that both Rally 1 cars and Rally 2 cars, coming from different manufacturers, have had the same safety failure. The windows do not have any impact resistance. In the case of Breen, it was a catastrophe. In the case of Greensmith, a mere inconvenience. But the fact it happened twice on two unrelated cars turns the attention away from Hyundai and onto the FIA's technical regulations, because if windows are being penetrated or simply separating from the cars without even having major impacts, that's exposing drivers to any debris or objects that come near the windows, and this is avoidable. But to understand exactly what's wrong with the regulations, it's important to understand how the windows on Rally 1 and Rally 2 cars are made. Unlike the windows you'd find on a road car, which are made of glass, the world's top rally cars use polycarbonate windows. Polycarbonate is an extremely strong material. When the FIA tested a polycarbonate fighter jet canopy, it was capable of deflecting a Formula 1 car's wheel and tyre combination that was fired at it with a speed of 225 km per hour without taking any damage whatsoever. They also tested a lower grade of polycarbonate with the same speed and projectile, and although it broke, it still deflected the wheel away from where the driver's head would be. An impact of less than 100 km per hour should not cause the polycarbonate to fail. On Greensmith's car, the window itself didn't actually break, instead it detached from its frame. On Breen's car, the window was hit exactly where the vent is. This broke the vent cover and may have also led to the cracking of the main window. The FIA has not revealed much information about the crash, so we may never get a close look of exactly how the window looked after the crash. The only view we can get is this shot of the i20 being loaded onto the transporter, which does show plastic hanging down from where the vent is, but it's unclear whether this is just the vent cover or also parts of the main window. This is the next piece of the puzzle. The issue has been narrowed down to the design requirements that the FIA has for the windows. So what are the FIA's design requirements for the windows? There are two classes of rally car that use polycarbonate windows, Rally 1 and Rally 2. For Rally 2, the regulations are under the safety equipment for cars in groups N, A and RGT, since due to something I'll cover in a later video, Rally 2 cars are still technically Group A cars. Rally 1 has its own regulations, referred to as the specific regulations for Rally 1 cars. Under the standards for Group A, there are no sections referring to the strength of the car's side windows or their mounting to the car. For Rally 1, there are also no sections on the strength of the windows, but it does specify that the front side windows must be removable without the use of tools. This is most likely for driver extraction and escape in the event of a crash. The fact that there's no rule specifying the strength of the side windows or the strength of their mounting to the door, teams are incentivized to put flimsily fitted windows on the car. The windows, therefore, have two weak points that need to be addressed: the vents and the mounting of the windows to the doors. With the final piece of the puzzle in place, it's clear exactly what happened and how it can be fixed. Craig Breen went off in a right-hand bend in a type of crash that happens very frequently in rallying. Unfortunately, this time, there was a wooden handrail in the path of his i20. The FIA regulations do not have requirements for window strength. The result is the front left window was penetrated by a log through the vent on impact, allowing the log to enter the cockpit. The point of failure that turned what should have been a minor inconvenience into a fatal crash was the window vent. So what's the solution? The solution is to change the technical regulations to incorporate a requirement for stronger windows and window mounting points. Fixing the windows is the easy part. Their main weakness is the vents. The vents are small rectangular holes in the windows with a sliding cover. If hit on the vent, the surface area of the polycarbonate that's hit is much lower, reducing its impact resistance. The vents are also rectangular in shape and usually have perfect right angles in the corners, which encourage the formation of cracks in the main window if hit on the vent. The windows in Rally 1 and Rally 2 cars are made of an extremely strong material already. Removing their structural weak point, the vent, will make rally cars safer. But what about driver cooling? My answer to this question is another question. What exactly is the argument against putting air conditioning in the top rally cars? Rallying is already the world's most extreme sport. Does making the drivers have to do it in temperatures of up to 60 degrees really add anything of value to the sport? Is there any logical reason that the cars are still not air conditioned? The FIA therefore should mandate air conditioning in Rally 1 and Rally 2 cars to replace the window vents. The window vents wouldn't be necessary if the cars were air conditioned, and this would lead to an improvement in crew safety and crew comfort by closing off the vent holes and reducing cabin temperatures. In addition to this, the FIA should mandate that the material of the windows is aerospace grade polycarbonate, as different grades of polycarbonate can produce different results. An aerospace grade polycarbonate window with no vent hole should be capable of withstanding an impact similar to that of Craig Breen's crash. To ensure that the windows are strong enough, the FIA should also include a strength requirement for the windows that will include not just the strength of the polycarbonate, but its connection to the rest of the car. This is to prevent a failure of the window mounts, such as what happened with Gus Greensmith. Danger will always be a part of motorsport, but it's up to the regulators to always keep the danger as minimal as possible when they can. Was the crash fatal because of a cabin intrusion as a result of the window breaking? Yes. Is it possible to make a window that can survive this sort of impact? Yes, although it could potentially require the addition of air conditioning if the roof scoop is insufficient on its own. Would the addition of air conditioning negatively affect the sport in any way? No. GT3 cars and Le Mans prototypes of both the old LMP1 and hypercar era have air conditioning and are mandated to have a maximum cabin temperature of 32 degrees. Would the addition of window strength requirements potentially save lives? Yes, it would.